On the day we went to the imperial temple to offer incense, I was unexpectedly left behind in the mountains by my fiancé and my older sister. It was not until they had traveled for half an hour that they realized there was one person missing from the carriage. I had assumed Xiao Pingjing would certainly turn back to find me. Yet, it wasn't until the night grew deep that the carriage driver finally arrived late. Accompanying the carriage, there was also a letter. "Awu, why didn't you get on the carriage? We were in a rush to reach Kingren Slope to watch the sunset. With no time to turn back for you. Take a carriage and come meet us there." With these few sparse words, there wasn't a hint of guilt, only filled with impatience. If this had been before, I would have surely blamed myself for my own negligence, and then moved heaven and earth to catch up with them. But this time, as I gazed at the dark mountain path, I suddenly lost the desire to pursue them. I simply gave one order to the driver: return to the residence. When I stepped into the manor, Zhao Pingjing and Eiji had already returned. Separated by the door, the laughter inside was boisterous, clearly audible. Guess if Awu will actually come looking for us? I bet she'll come back crying and wailing, followed by hushed, deliberate whispers, as if they were gambling on something. The content was too blurred to distinguish, and I felt a bitter twist at the corner of my lips. From beginning to end, had they ever truly cared about my safety? I steadied myself, pushed the door open, and entered. I was met with 4 gazes of surprise. I didn't look at anyone, no longer acting like I used to, clinging to him or throwing tantrums. But just as I walked past him, I was suddenly grabbed by the arm. The man familiarly patted the top of my head. "What, don't recognize me anymore?" Every time he saw me, he always did this. He claimed it was a unique silent understanding between us. My reason urged me to push him away, but a strange ache welled up in my chest. "Awu, the wedding date is approaching. Can you be more mature?" I froze for a moment, and only after a long pause did I turn to look at him. "What?" Zhao Pingjing closed his eyes for a moment, his tone calm. We agreed to wait at the carriage after hanging the blessing plaques. "Why did you disappear without a sound? Do you know how anxious we were when we realized you weren't in the carriage? If you had encountered mountain bandits, do you know how grave the consequences would have been? Even if you don't care about yourself, you should think about us. Do you want us to live with a guilty conscience for the rest of our lives? You are about to be married. Why are you still acting like a child, always making people worry?" By the end of his words, his brows were knitted into a knot. I stood where I was, not moving an inch, but the chill that had accumulated in my body for hours was seeping out bit by bit. My fingertips trembled uncontrollably. "Then why, when you realized I wasn't in the carriage, did you not immediately turn back to find me?" Or perhaps he hadn't realized at all. Perhaps whether I was by his side or not meant absolutely nothing to him. Or rather, if I were there, I would only be a hindrance to them. "Look at you, I just said a few words, and your tears are falling again." Zhao Pingjing sighed helplessly, raising his hand to pat my head, but I didn't wait for him to touch me. I had already stepped back first. His hand and his words remained suspended in the air. Just then, the silent Yan Xiao suddenly ran over, stepping between us, and spread her arms to shield me behind her. "Shame on you, Zhao Pingjing. Awu isn't even married into your family yet, and you're already bullying her like this. Do you think her older sister, am just for show?" Zhao Pingjing couldn't help but laugh out loud. "I bullying her? With you watching from the side, I wouldn't have the guts." The two of them exchanged words, bickering without a care for anyone else, not even noticing that I had quietly walked away. Guessed wrong? She didn't cry? Pay up as we agreed. That was the last thing I heard. And then the sounds dissipated into the night wind. I hadn't expected them to gamble on my emotions. Just as I entered the courtyard, I bumped into grandmother. "Why have you returned so late?" I forced a smile. "Grandmother, why are you still awake?" Her dim eyes scanned me for a long time. Then she used her wrinkled hand to stroke my stiff lips. "If you don't want to smile, don't. If you want to cry, then cry. Here with grandmother. You don't need to force yourself." I bit my lip and finally burst into tears. "Grandmother, I want to call off the engagement." On the way to helping grandmother back to her room, she never asked for the reason behind the cancellation. She only asked gently, "Awu, have you really thought it through?" I took a deep breath and nodded solemnly. She gently patted the back of my hand. That marriage alliance with the Marquis estate was supposed to be for Xiao. But he had his sights set too high, climbing for higher status. As for his character, it's not even worth mentioning. When your mother arranged this marriage for you, I was the first to disapprove. But since you were happy with it, I didn't say much more. Now that you don't want it anymore, then let it go. Grandmother, aren't you angry with me? I lowered my head, asking in a muffled voice. Grandmother paused her steps, turned and looked at me for a long time, suddenly letting out a laugh. When I was your age, I also shopped around in the capital. If you don't choose a few, how do you know which one is right? Hearing her say this, the clouds in my heart gradually scattered. To tell the truth, ever since I first saw Zhao Pingjing, I had given him my heart. It was at a polo match some years ago, and I had the chance to go watch with AG. His heroic posture on horseback deeply engraved itself in my mind. At that time, even though he wasn't betrothed to our family, everyone assumed he was a match for AG. So later, when mother entrusted the marriage to me, I was overjoyed. I didn't want to think about why AG didn't want him, nor did I care who Zhao Pingjing had in his heart. As long as I could have my wish, that was enough. But now, I have realized I was terribly wrong. Every time I saw them standing side by side, I felt utterly exhausted, as if I were the one who had rudely stepped in. There should never have been a place for an outsider like me between them. Set your mind at ease. As for your mother, I will handle her. Grandmother's words pulled my thoughts back. Thank you, Grandmother. Grandmother let out a heavy sigh. Your mother has always been biased. If this old woman, weren't supporting you, how would you endure it? I held on to grandmother's arm, and the unhappiness from earlier was swept away. Grandmother treats Awu the best. He patted my hair indulgently, but a mischievous glint flashed in his eyes. Since you've made up your mind, then grandmother will start making arrangements. What arrangements is grandmother going to make? That's a secret. The next day, when I stepped into the front hall, I found that Zhao Pingjing had already arrived. But sitting across from him was still Lin Xiao. He had brought a food box of snacks, and was placing them on the table, one by one. I lost the bet, so I pay up. I went and queued for these early this morning. Fresh out of the oven. That's sincere enough, right? His voice was filled with indulgence and lingering tenderness. Yang Xiao rubbed her hands together, her eyes and brows full of laughter. Excellent, excellent! Only you are fit to be my future brother-in-law. I turned to leave, but Yang Xiao's voice drifted over first. Awu is here. Then Zhao Pingjing's voice, with a hint of helplessness, also sounded. You really know how to pick your timing. Are you a roundworm in my stomach? Smelling the food and sneaking over on your own. I closed my eyes and steeled myself to walk toward them. The table was fully laden, all snacks from Wang Yu Studio, but every plate had peach blossom powder sprinkled on it without exception. That was Yang Jia's favorite. But for me, I couldn't even touch it. Sit down and eat together. You're only benefiting from your sister's favor. Don't you know I'm allergic to peach blossoms? With just those words, both of them froze on the spot. He clearly knew it. He had just forgotten. Whenever Yang Jia was around, he would always subconsciously leave me behind. I sat down beside them, my fingers trembling slightly. A wave of unspeakable nausea surged from the pit of my stomach. I slowly turned my face to look at Zhao Pingjing. Little Marquis, let's call off this engagement. I won't marry you. The moment those words fell, Zhao Pingjing's face, still holding a shy look, suddenly displayed shock. Following that, annoyance crept into his brows. Lin Xiao was the first to regain her composure. Jing, are you perhaps angry at me? For leaving you alone at the Imperial Temple yesterday? I looked at him with eyes full of surprise. So he knew it all along. He had intentionally left me behind. Zhao Pingjing knit his brows, the anger in his eyes barely contained.
Enough, Yao.
It was clearly she who refused to get on the carriage. Don't blame others. She's always like this, insisting that everyone revolve around her. Besides, the snacks on the table were bought for you anyway. Whether she eats them or not is up to her. I stood up, refusing to even glance at him again, and walked straight out. Awu, Awu. Don't call her. It's just me being too indulgent with her lately, which is why she has developed this arrogant and willful temper. Let her go back and think carefully about where she went wrong. But was I really wrong? What exactly did I do wrong? Many days passed, And Zhao Pingjing never came to look for me. I couldn't be bothered with him either, which suited me just fine. While I was looking in the mirror and doing my hair, Ling Jie's voice drifted in from outside the courtyard wall. Seeing I didn't respond, she put on that wronged look again as if she were about to weep. Awu, you're sulking with the little Marquis. But why have you been cold to me for so many days as well? The two of you are the same, neither willing to take a step back. With the wedding date right before us, are you going to walk down the aisle with that cold face? He is a man after all. Just for my sake. Can't you take the initiative to offer him a way out? Looking at this half-sister of mine, a wave of chill washed over me for no reason. I clearly hadn't done anything wrong, so why did she always speak for him? Or perhaps, except for grandmother, there was no one on my side at all. Let's talk about it later. He picked up a wooden comb from in front of me and smoothed out my long hair, stroke by stroke. Not knowing what thought he triggered, a smile bloomed in his eyes. I thought you were so angry that you wouldn't even come to the Marquis' estate anymore. Seems I thought wrong. I started to murmur in my heart. Little Marquis. First, to wish the grandmother a happy birthday. Second, I wanted to see for myself. Who is this mystery person grandmother keeps mentioning? And what does it have to do with Zhao Pingjing? Thinking of this, a crimson flush crept onto my cheeks involuntarily. Look at you. Still being stubborn with your words. But your heart has already flown to him, hasn't it? Yan Xiao stared at me, her eyes full of teasing. I saw no point in wasting my breath on her, so I gave her a resentful glare. But in her eyes, this was clearly proof of my guilty conscience. All right, let's get going. Your heart must have already flown ahead. You stubborn girl, saying one thing but meaning another. The entrance to the Marquis' residence was already bustling with activity. Guests were arriving in waves. Zhao Pingjing stood at the entrance to welcome them, but his eyes seemed to be searching the crowd. When he saw us dismount from the carriage, he immediately walked toward us with long strides. Yao, you've arrived. Look, his eyes were always fixed on Yan Xiao. I had no desire to deal with him, so I rushed ahead and stepped through the gates. I clearly felt two gazes, staring coldly at my back. As for whatever they were whispering about, I couldn't be bothered. Just as I stepped inside, a maid came forward to lead the way. Second Miss Yan, the grandmother would like to see you for a moment. I followed her through the corridor and arrived at the back hall. Once I finished my greetings, grandmother took my hand. Her expression was kind. Awu, isn't it? Are you and Pingjing having a disagreement? I suspect that boy must have made you angry. I will lecture him later. But having said that, you are both young. It is normal to have some minor friction. I know Pingjing truly cares for you, so rest assured. As long as you are part of this family, with this old woman here, no one shall dare to cause you any grievances. I understood immediately. It seemed grandmother had already spoken to him. Before I could refuse, she handed me an exquisite sandalwood box. I opened it. Inside lay an antique jade bracelet. This bracelet was passed down from Pingjing's great-grandmother. Now I am giving it to you. You are the granddaughter-in-law I have chosen. I quietly withdrew my hand, refusing to take it. Thank you for your kindness, grandmother. Awu does not dare to accept such a generous gift. It would be better to leave this bracelet for the one who truly deserves it. Before I finished speaking, I bowed to her. May grandmother be blessed with long life and happiness. Awu will take her leave now. Behind me, only a deep sigh could be heard. As I stepped out of the courtyard, my path was blocked by Zhao Pingjing. His eyes carried a hint of amusement. It seems you've grown quite bold. Learning to use grandmother to pressure me, have you? I looked at him blankly, unsure of how to respond. Forget it. Since you have admitted your mistake, I shall spare you this time. But in the future, don't let your temper run wild so easily. Zhao Hai. All right. His gaze was condescending, as if he were bestowing a favor. Your older sister is in the back garden. Go find her there. I still have to return to the front to greet the guests. As his words fell, he tapped my head lightly. Then he turned and walked away. The words stuck in my throat were swallowed back down. Never mind, grandmother will surely inform him eventually. Once I'm no longer holding him back.
He can go and find his true love to his heart's content.
Thinking this way, I walked toward the back garden with light, airy steps. I wondered if the person grandmother mentioned had arrived. and what kind of person they might be. When Zhao Pingjing looked back, I was already skipping away into the distance. He shook his head helplessly. To be so happy over such a small thing? Perhaps I was too lenient in forgiving her this time. Whatever, I'll let her enjoy herself today. Setting rules after she marries into the family is soon enough, he muttered to himself. Even his stride seemed a bit lighter. By the time I reached the back garden, the young masters and noble ladies were already gathered in small groups. But how was I to find the person? I clutched my handkerchief to cover my lips. Feeling slightly awkward, I walked toward the group of young men. I gave a small cough. My eyes lowered slightly, and I quickly recited, lingering fragrance brushing against the flower mirror. The gentlemen all glanced over at me, looking completely puzzled. I sneaked a few glances, then quickly lowered my head and hurried away, as if I were merely reciting poetry. After repeating this a few times, I felt much more at ease, no longer blushing or keeping my head down. But after circling the area, no one had replied with the next line. I couldn't help but sigh. Had the person grandmother mentioned not shown up after all? What a waste of effort. Just as I was pondering, my shoulder was tapped heavily from behind. My heart gave a start. I turned around in a hurry. Older sister, it's you! My joy was instantly replaced by disappointment. My heart felt hollow. Yan Zhao frowned slightly. Awu, what are you doing here? Why do you keep hanging around where all the men are? I let out a forced laugh. Wasn't I just looking for you? I hadn't seen a shadow of you for a long time. Wasn't I right over there? I called out to you earlier. How did you not hear me? My mind went blank. I scrambled for a while but couldn't even invent a decent excuse. Suddenly, a crisp, clear voice echoed from behind me. Zhao Ziyi. My breath hitched. I turned around abruptly, to see a tall, handsome man looking down at me. The corners of his lips were slightly raised, carrying a hint of flirtatious charm. In all my years, I had never seen such exquisite features. I was momentarily stunned. Yan Zhao, however, rushed forward first and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. What? He was actually the Crown Prince? So the secret grandmother mentioned centered on him. Miss Yan, there is no need for such formalities. Yan Zhao set aside her usual arrogance and spoke in a soft, gentle tone. I didn't expect to run into Your Highness today. Are you here to offer birthday wishes to the old madam of the Marquis' estate as well? That was a statement of the obvious. It seems she was completely infatuated with him. This is my second younger sister, young Qingwu. She is already betrothed to little Marquis Zhao Pingjing, while I am still unmarried. Though she introduced me with her words, she quietly moved to the center, blocking me behind her. Looking at her posture, it was as if she was about to throw herself at him. Zhao Zi's brow moved slightly, and he responded with indifference. Yan Zhao took this as a response, and became even more unrestrained. Just now I saw Your Highness looking over repeatedly. Was there something you wished to say to me? There is indeed something. Zhao Zi smiled faintly, the sunlight hitting his brow, sparkling with a subtle glint. Yan Zhao was overjoyed, hastily bowing her head, her neck turning crimson. Your Highness, please speak freely. There is indeed something. Miss Yan, would you mind stepping aside? I have words for your second younger sister. As soon as he finished speaking, the bashfulness on Yan Zhao's face froze instantly. Her complexion shifted from red to white, then from white to a sickly green, and finally darkened with humiliation. Zhao Zi remained unhurried, gazing at her with a faint smile. Having been shamed in public, tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls, but she could not bear to stay any longer. She stomped her foot hard and ran off, covering her face. As she passed me, she deliberately bumped into me, glaring at me with resentment. Thank you. My body swayed, but fortunately, Zhao Ziyi reached out in time to steady me. I quickly regained my balance and stepped back, creating some distance. Thank you, Your Highness. Zhao Ziyi slowly withdrew his hand, his fingertips curling involuntarily. Why did the second Miss Yan purposely bypass me just now? What? I was momentarily stunned. I raised my eyes to look at him.
He curled his lips into a casual smirk.
His gaze, however, seemed to pierce deep into my heart. It made me tremble slightly. Just now you walked past every man present, yet you were the only one who forgot about me. In the latter half of his sentence, his voice carried a faint hint of grievance. It felt almost like an illusion. Indeed, I was reciting the first half of the poem, passing by everyone one by one. And purely by accident I missed him. In truth, I had seen him, but he stood alone under the veranda, surrounded by an aura that kept everyone at a distance. That is why I did not dare to approach him. I did not know he was the crown prince, nor did I know that the latter half of the poem rested with him. I did not see your highness. Regarding this perfunctory excuse, he did not press the matter further. He simply smiled faintly. That laughter was like a spring breeze brushing past, making one feel utterly at ease. Yet, I suddenly sensed that something was amiss. Your highness has been watching me all along. His slightly narrowed eyes had already given an answer without a word. I embarrassedly cupped my cheeks, momentarily lost for words. I was so ashamed that I wished I could find a crack in the ground to hide in. However, you're quite endearing. That voice sounded low, right against my ear. A faint, lingering fragrance drifted gently into my nostrils. His orchid-like breath brushed against my earlobe, leaving it itchy and tinged with a numbing sensation. I hurriedly steadied my heart and diverted the subject. I truly did not know that your highness was the person grandmother mentioned. Zhao Si straightened his posture and nodded slightly. Then, does the second Miss Yun still feel satisfied? Before I could find a chance to reply, a hasty interruption came from behind. Awu, since when have you known His Highness? Zhao Pingjing rushed over, his eyes filled with panic and a touch of blame. Yan Xiao followed closely behind him, evidently summoned by him. Were it not for this, he should have been in the front courtyard greeting guests. After being interrupted by him, Zhao Si and I had no further opportunity to converse. Throughout the entire banquet, Yan Xiao ignored me, and when it ended, I truly did not expect that Awu would hide her acquaintance with His Highness from me. You already have the little Marquis. Why must you flirt with others? If our parents were to find out, the consequences, have you thought them through clearly? I tried to explain. We have already annulled the engagement, but he gave me no chance, and climbed directly into the carriage to leave. I chased after a few steps, but could not catch up. He had actually left me stranded where I stood. Zhao Pingjing walked over at this moment. His brows were tightly furrowed. Awu, I thought you came to apologize. I never expected you to come and cause trouble. Even if you felt obligated to accept because of his status as the crown prince, you shouldn't have been laughing and chatting with him in front of everyone. What does this make of my reputation? And where does this leave the face of the Marquis' estate? Instead, I responded with a cold sneer. When he spent his days laughing and joking with Yan Jiao, did he ever care about my feelings? Did he ever remember that I am his fiancée? Did he ever think about whether I would be heartbroken? Miss Yana, I happen to be going your way. Would you like a ride? Zhao Si's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. I looked back. He was riding on his horse, with an empty carriage waiting beside him. There was no need to guess. The carriage was clearly prepared for me. Then many thanks, Your Highness. After saying that, I didn't even look at Zhao Pingjing, and walked straight into the carriage. Awu! Have you truly thought this through? Zhao Pingjing's voice behind me sounded, as if it were squeezed through his teeth. It was dark and heavy. The sound of carriage wheels rolling over the ground reached us. The curtains were fluttered by a light breeze. He stared at me blankly, his eye rims reddened, his hands clenched tight. I let out a long, heavy sigh. You will understand soon enough. From this day forward, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. Whether you are infatuated with Yan Xiao or intend to marry her, that is entirely your choice. With me no longer standing in your way, you won't be in any more awkward situations. The carriage was lined with soft cushions, burning the lotus and scents I loved most, keeping my favorite Qibao tea warm, and stocked with the Liyuhua pastries I craved. All of my various preferences. He actually knew them all. No one had ever treated me with such attentiveness before. My nose couldn't help but sting with bitterness. Outside the carriage, Zhao Si's voice came just in time. I saw you didn't eat much earlier. It's still a long way to the Yun estate. You can have a little something to satisfy your hunger. I froze for a moment. The women's seating area was separated from the men's by a screen. He shouldn't have been able to see me at all. It seems he specifically instructed people to keep an eye on me. I never expected that, despite being the crown prince. He would be so thoughtful. Your Highness, do you know my grandmother? As soon as the words left my lips, I regretted them. It wasn't appropriate for a younger generation to speak to a superior like that. Surely it was just that his elders were well acquainted with my grandmother. But Jiaxi's reply surprised me greatly. I do. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. I couldn't just ask him directly, what do you think of me? Are you willing to marry me? There was no more conversation on the way. When I alighted from the carriage, Jiaxi handed me a jade pendant from behind the curtains. Keep this for now. Another day, I shall send you a generous gift. Through the curtain, I couldn't see his face clearly, but his voice sounded somewhat hoarse. As the saying goes, courtesy demands reciprocity. I should return a gift. I rummaged through my belongings for something suitable to give, but only found an old sachet. Just as I was hesitating whether to give it to him, a hand reached in from outside the curtain and took the sachet. In that case, I now understand your feelings. After Jiaxi left, I didn't rest for a moment, going straight to find my grandmother. She wore a smile, and her gaze toward me sparkled with a bit of mischief. How was it? Grandmother, how could that person be the crown prince? When did I ever say he wasn't the crown prince? As soon as the words fell, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Does Awu think well of him? If he doesn't catch your eye, grandmother will help you find another husband. No need, my heart raced, and I blurted out before I could think, he's actually quite good. Compared to Zhao Pingying, Jiaxi was far superior. Thinking about it now, how could I have taken so long to see someone for who they truly were? Grandmother took my hand, her eyes welling up with moisture. Since that is the case, then I can finally be at ease. Grandmother, how do you know the crown prince? She mused for a moment, as if rummaging through a dusty memory. The Empress Dowager and I, we were close childhood companions. It's a pity she entered the palace later, so our chances to meet became fewer. In my earlier years, when I was still in good health, I would often go to the palace to keep her company. That was when I first met the crown prince. The empress passed away early, and the crown prince was raised by the Empress Dowager herself. As time passed, we naturally became close. But looking at the crown prince's expression, it seemed as though he knew me quite well. It didn't seem like we were meeting for the first time at all. Grandmother gently patted the back of my hand and laughed aloud. Silly girl, he has had his eye on you for a long time. It's just that you were formerly attached to the Zhao boy, so he could only watch helplessly. Now that I've said you have broken off the engagement, didn't he come rushing to your doorstep? But I don't seem to have ever met him. When did he form these feelings? I desperately scoured my memory, but couldn't find a single clue. Grandmother shook her head, a cryptic smile playing on her lips. As for that matter, you'll have to ask him yourself. Without realizing it, we had been talking for quite a while, and grandmother showed signs of deep fatigue. I didn't linger any longer, paid my respects, and stepped out. These past few days, grandmother's health has been growing increasingly frail. I was thinking, should I mention it to Zhao Ci? To hold the wedding sooner, so that grandmother could see me in my wedding dress with her own eyes. But if those words came from me, they wouldn't be very appropriate. Yet, I never expected that while I was anxious, someone was even more anxious than me. The next day, a palace eunuch arrived, bearing an imperial decree. The decree for the marriage had arrived, so the generous gift he mentioned was actually this. This matter, Yang Xiao looked completely stunned, her complexion ghastly pale, hardly able to believe her own ears. Awu, didn't you already have an engagement with the little marquis? How could this suddenly? Grandmother sat in the main seat and gently waved her hand. The engagement with the marquis' estate. I went to dissolve it myself. From now on, Awu has no connection to that Zhao boy. My mother spoke up urgently. Mother, the matter of the crown prince. Was it you who acted as the matchmaker?
Indeed.
Mother knitted her brows tightly and bit her lower lip. But since we are both your granddaughters, why didn't you make a match for Ai Yao as well? The smile on grandmother's face froze instantly. Are you blaming me? This daughter-in-law wouldn't dare. Mother shifted her gaze elsewhere, but the resentment in her eyes was glaringly obvious. She has always been like this. Her heart only held room for Yan Xiao. At this moment, Yan Xiao's eyes turned red, tears falling down. Her fragile demeanor was moving. Grandmother, why are you so partial? Clearly, my sister and I are both your granddaughters. Yet you only promised the crown prince to my sister. Previously, my sister already had the Marquis engagement, and grandmother never thought to introduce him to me either. Why do all the good things fall to my sister? Do I even count as a daughter of the Yan family anymore? Before she finished speaking, she was already shedding tears like rain, sobbing loudly. Mother hurriedly pulled her into her arms, the two embracing and weeping, comforting her softly. Grandmother was so angry that her chest heaved violently, her breathing heavy. The crown prince only has eyes for Awu. How can you expect me to force him to take you? Matters of the heart rely on mutual affection. He simply didn't take a liking to you. Now you make it out to be the fault of this old woman? Do you think I don't know the little schemes in your heart? Back when Awu was with the Zhao boy, you were always trying to insert yourself between them. Tell me, what kind of intention was that? At the beginning, you were the one who clearly looked down on the engagement with the Marquis' estate. Since childhood, you've taken all the benefits for yourself. Ask your mother. Has she ever treated you both with impartiality? Grandmother said a lot in one breath, and suddenly began to cough violently. I quickly stepped forward to gently pat her back. Grandmother, don't be upset. Older sister didn't mean to anger you. Mother's expression was rigid. Her lips moved, but she ultimately said nothing. To say the least, grandmother only has Awu in her heart. I was born to be unloved. Since it's like this, what is the point of me clinging to this home? Before her words finished, she covered her face and ran to the back courtyard. Mother, fearing she might do something foolish, hurriedly chased after her. However, grandmother was so furious that she couldn't catch her breath, and her body tilted, collapsing heavily onto the desk, losing consciousness. Mother hesitated between the two directions for a moment, but ultimately chose to chase after Yan Jiao. I'll go check on Yao first. Awu, hurry and call the estate doctor to attend to grandmother. I didn't have time to think further, and hurriedly ordered people to carry grandmother back to her quarters in an instant. The mansion was in utter chaos. After that banquet, Zhao Pingjing never set foot in the estate again. He spent his days drinking, unable to resolve his sorrow. It was clearly young Qingwe's fault. Why wouldn't she be the one to yield? And it made him jealous. How could she be so close to the crown prince? If outsiders saw this, where would he hide his face? This time, he had to teach her a lesson. Otherwise, when he eventually married her, she would surely ride roughshod over him. His mind already conjured images of Awu lowering her head to admit her mistake, so he deliberately gave her the cold shoulder, refusing to seek her out. He wanted to see how long she could hold out. Until today, when a servant reported that Yan Jiao had fallen ill, he rushed to the Yan estate. The servants in the house were busy with who knows what, and no one came to greet him. He didn't mind, and headed straight for Yan Jiao's quarters. Only a few days had passed. How could she have become like this? Her face was full of fatigue, having lost the lively spirit she once had. Yao, are you okay? What happened? Yan Jiao sat up with effort, using a handkerchief to cover her mouth and coughing a few times. Little Marquis, it's my fault. I didn't take good care of myself. Zhao Pingjing heard this, and was filled with confusion. Yan Jiao looked at him and continued. That day at the banquet, the crown prince was originally meant to meet with me. But Awu, because she was fighting with you, deliberately pushed me away, so that she could spend time alone with the crown prince. For her to do such a thing, it is my fault as an older sister for not teaching her better. At this point, she sobbed quietly. Zhao Pingjing grew more irritated as he listened.
He clenched his hands so tightly that his knuckles cracked.
I never expected her to be so petty and vindictive. I truly misjudged her. Lin Jiao sniffled. As his older sister, I had no idea he would do something so foolish, just to abandon you. Zhao Pingjing's face was full of rage. His teeth gritted tightly. Lin Jiao took the opportunity to take out a prepared handkerchief, pretending to cough up blood. Yao, what's wrong? Your health. The doctor says I don't have much time left. However what? Lin Jiao hesitated for a long while, before forcing herself to speak. However, if I could find a snow lotus within a month, perhaps I would still have a chance at survival. 1 month. Zhao Pingjing repeated in a low voice, his mind in complete chaos. Yao, wait for me. Within a month, I will definitely retrieve the snow lotus for you. But Awu, she... It's time Awu received a lesson. Otherwise, once she enters the Marquis' residence, I fear she will turn the whole place upside down. Watching Zhao Pingjing's retreating figure as he hurried away, the sickly expression on Lin Jiao's face vanished instantly, leaving no trace behind. A month later, your former fiancé has married another man. How would you feel about that in your heart? Wouldn't you be ready to draw your sword and risk your life? She could almost imagine him making a murderous move against Lin Jiwu. If he cannot have her, then no one else should even think of having her. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Zhao Pingjing never came to look for me again. I suppose he must have let it go. After all, from the very beginning, he never truly gave me his heart. So much so that, after the engagement was broken, he didn't even wish to see me one last time. On the day of the wedding, the residence was decorated with lanterns and colorful banners, filled with joy and festivity. Grandmother, with a warm smile on her face, personally placed the red bridal veil over my head. Grandmother is finally able to see Awu get married. From now on, when grandmother isn't by your side, you must take good care of yourself. My nose felt sour, and tears could not help but fall. Grandmother, Awu really cannot bear to part with you. Silly girl, today is your big day. You mustn't shed any tears. Supported by the marriage attendant, I walked slowly toward the door. I hadn't expected that young Xiao, who claimed to be ill and hadn't stepped out for a month, would also show her face. Reaching the gates of the residence, Zhao Ziyi, who was waiting there, stepped forward a few paces. Awu, I have finally waited for this day. Through the red silk veil, I could not see his expression clearly. The bride is entering the sedan chair. Following the attendant's loud cry, I took steps toward the bridal sedan. The sounds of celebration rose and fell all around. But just at this moment, a sharp shout erupted from outside the crowd. Wait. My body stiffened abruptly. That was clearly Zhao Pingjing's voice. What on earth is he trying to do? Footsteps approached, until he was blocked by the guards. Who are you? I asked in a steady tone. Little Marquis. I am grateful for your presence to witness the ceremony. The figure opposite me swayed. His voice was filled with disbelief. Yao, what are you doing? You've only been gone for a month, and you've already married someone else? You really are just as Au said. How could you treat me like this? A wave of astonishment surged in my heart. Hadn't the engagement between us been dissolved long ago? What was he planning by coming here this time? Little Marquis. Today is the day of my wedding. By stopping the crown princess, what exactly are you trying to do? Zhao Pingjing steadied himself a little. Your Highness, please forgive me. I only wish to say a few words to the crown princess. I will leave as soon as I finish. Sensing everyone's eyes gathering, I gave a slight nod in approval. Zhao Si waved his hand, and the guards stepped aside. Zhao Pingjing stepped forward, lowering his voice. Awu, have you truly chosen the crown prince? Yes. Then what am I? Where do you place me? I am clearly your betrothed husband. To act this way in the middle of the capital. Did you ever think of me for even a moment? I was stunned for a moment, but before I could speak, he continued. I kept thinking you were just throwing a tantrum. I never expected you to be so mercenary and greedy. It was I who misjudged you, and entrusted my heart to the wrong person. Since I cannot have her, then no one else shall dare to touch her. An ominous feeling rose in my heart. Subconsciously, I took a few steps back. Sure enough, Zhao Pingjing suddenly pulled a dagger from his robes and lunged straight at me. My heart tightened abruptly. A scream for help stuck in my throat. Fortunately, Zhao Si had been on guard in secret, and he kicked him to the ground before anyone else could react. Immediately after, his long sword was drawn, pinning Zhao Pingjing's lower leg firmly into the stone ground. Zhao Pingjing is bold and lawless, daring to attempt the assassination of the crown princess. Seize him. Zhao Pingjing lay slumped on the ground, blood gushing from his leg. The pain made cold sweat bead on his forehead. In the blink of an eye, guards stepped forward and subdued him. Everything happened in a flash. By the time everyone regained their senses, the situation was already settled. Ling Yao slipped away silently, from behind the crowd. Idiot, why did you return so early? And chose such an unsuitable time. On the wedding night, Zhao Si had no heart to entertain the guests, not even bothering to drink the wedding wine, and hurried into the bridal chamber. Awu, were you frightened today? He lifted the veil, and we drank the nuptial wine together. It is fortunate that you are here with me.
He pulled me firmly into his arms.
As if embracing a treasure lost and found again. Your Highness, grandmother said, you have liked me for a long time. Is that true? Zhao Xi's cheeks flushed with a faint redness. How long ago? When I was 10? I left the palace with the Empress Dowager. I caught a cold on the way. He took me to your grandmother's villa to recover. That was where I first saw you. You cared for me for several days. Unfortunately, you caught the sickness too. Your grandmother said that after you recovered, you would have forgotten everything that happened. Later, every time I left the palace, I always wanted to find you. But I didn't expect that there was already someone else by your side. Seeing his lonely expression, I could not help but reach out to wrap my arms around his neck. Fortunately, we ended up together after all. Yes, this time you can never forget me again. The way Zhao Xi looked at me gradually turned hazy. He picked me up in his arms and placed me gently onto the bed. Awu. All these years I have missed you to the point of going mad. To what extent? In a moment, you will naturally know how mad I am. Having survived a night where I couldn't close my eyes, I finally truly understood the weight of those words. His intensity was simply more than I could handle. I went to the Ministry of Justice prison to visit Zhao Pingjing. When he first saw me, his eyes flickered with evasion, but he still dragged his injured leg, climbing toward the doorframe. Ayao, I know everything now. I have already figured it out. I heard that a few days ago, the old lady of the Marquis' estate had come to visit him. I suppose he knows the whole truth by now. I also sent people to investigate Yang Jiao, only to discover she was full of lies, constantly deceiving me. When it truly came to this, I found I couldn't harbor even a sliver of anger in my heart. Let the past be the past. Look forward. Zhao Pingjing closed his eyes, 2 lines of clear tears falling silently. During the days I spent here, I have thought a lot. It was I who was reckless, clearly having an engagement, yet always keeping my heart on someone else. I always thought that we would marry sooner or later anyway, so what was there for you to be angry about? But I never stood in your shoes to think, and I never considered if you would be embarrassed. I'm sorry. Truly, I am sorry. Before he finished speaking, he slumped onto the ground, covering his face and sobbing uncontrollably. I heaved a heavy sigh. Young Marquis Zhao. Let the past stay in the past. I have now married the one I adore, and he treats me extremely well. He will not be easily swayed by the opinions of others. You should also let go soon, and go live your own life. I came here today just to tell you that I will no longer pursue your actions. You are now free. After these words, I did not linger. I turned and walked away. Awu, did you ever hate me? Hate, I couldn't say myself. In the past, it was perhaps just some disappointment. As for now, I have long ceased to care. It was I who lost you with my own hands. I hate myself. I'm sorry, Awu. The crying behind me grew weaker, finally fading away at the end of the corridor. Only 7 days after I was married, grandmother passed away. The Empress Dowager moved to the Yun residence, personally lighting 3 sticks of incense, and then dismissed everyone, staying alone for a long time. It seems the bond between them was perhaps deeper than that of biological sisters. Afterward, rumors spread throughout the capital that Yun Jiao was rebellious and unfilial, having offended her elders. In an instant, her reputation was in ruins, and no one came to propose marriage. When Zhao Pingjing came to ask for her hand, her father did not hesitate, sending her off in the Marquis' sit-in chair. But he was marrying her as a concubine. Linya was filled with unwillingness, washing her face with tears all day long, yet she was ultimately powerless to change her fate. As soon as she stepped into the Marquis' estate, Zhao Pingjing shed his pretense, imprisoning her in a side courtyard, subjecting her to all sorts of abuse and 1,000 forms of humiliation. The servants, seeing which way the wind blew, how could they give her a kind look? Later, Yan Xiao lied, claiming she had words to tell him personally. While he was distracted, he picked up a rock and smashed her other good leg. Zhao Pingjing's legs were completely ruined. He will likely spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I heard that day, Yan Zhao laughed like a mad woman. The Marchioness hated her to the bone, locking her in the deep courtyard to torment her. When Zhao Si recounted the guard's words, my heart felt no waves at all, as if listening to the past of two complete strangers. To think they were once so close, only to end up in such a state. It truly evokes such deep emotion. I gaze out the window. Thick white snow has piled upon the wadong branches. They look just like the drifting clouds in the sky. Much like my name, Yang Qiwu.